It's 4:35 p.m. on November 24, 1971. A man in a dark suit and sunglasses sits in seat 18C on a Boeing 727 climbing out of Portland International Airport. He orders a bourbon and soda. He lights a cigarette. He hands the flight attendant a note. This is the story of the only unsolved hijacking in American aviation history. The man calls himself Dan Cooper. He's paid $20 in cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle. Nothing about him stands out. Mid-40s, neat haircut, calm voice. The flight attendant, Florence Schaffner, assumes the note is his phone number. She slips it into her pocket without reading it. He leans toward her. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She reads it. Her hands don't shake. She's trained for turbulence, not this. Cooper opens his briefcase. Inside are red cylinders wired to a battery and wires running to what looks like a detonator. Schaffner can't tell if it's real, neither can the pilots. Neither, 6 hours later, can the FBI. His demands are specific: $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, 4 parachutes, a fuel truck waiting in Seattle, no police, no delay. The plane circles Puget Sound for nearly 2 hours while Northwest Orient Airlines and the FBI scramble to meet the demands. The airline's president personally approves the payout. The Seattle Police Department has the cash ready in under 3 hours, all of it photographed and logged, serial numbers recorded one by one. At 5:39 p.m., the 727 lands in Seattle. Cooper allows the 36 passengers to leave. He keeps the crew. The money and parachutes are delivered through the aft stairs. He counts the cash himself. 9 pounds of currency in a canvas bag. Then he gives the pilots a new set of instructions. Fly to Mexico City, stay under 10,000 feet, keep the landing gear down, keep the wing flaps at 15 degrees, keep the rear stairs unlocked. These are not the demands of an amateur. A hijacker with no aviation knowledge doesn't ask for the flaps at a specific angle. He doesn't know that keeping the gear down slows a jet enough to survive a jump. Somebody taught him this, or he taught himself. At 7:36 p.m., over the dense forest of southwest Washington, in the middle of a rainstorm, Cooper lowers the aft stairs of a Boeing 727 traveling at 200 miles an hour, 10,000 feet above the ground. He straps on a parachute, he ties the money bag to his body, and he jumps into the dark. He is never seen again. The crew feels the plane buck when he leaves. A warning light blinks on the console, signaling the stairs are open. They land in Reno 2 hours later. The rear stairs are empty. The money is gone. Cooper is gone. Within hours, 200 investigators from a dozen agencies converge on the case. It becomes the largest manhunt in FBI history. They comb 27 square miles of forest between the Lewis River and Mount St. Helens. Soldiers from Fort Lewis walk the terrain in grid formation. Helicopters sweep the canopy. Divers search the rivers. They find nothing. No parachute, no body, no canvas bag. The FBI builds a profile. A man in his mid-40s, dark hair, calm under pressure, familiar enough with a 727 to know its weak points, but reckless enough to jump into a thunderstorm at night over unfamiliar terrain wearing a business suit and loafers. 3 theories dominate. 1, he was a former paratrooper, disciplined enough to plan every detail but desperate enough to risk his life for cash. 2, he was an aviation employee, someone who'd worked ground crew or maintenance and knew the 727's blind spots from the inside. 3, he never survived the jump at all. The storm, the freezing air, the impact, any of it could have killed him instantly, and the forest simply swallowed the evidence. The FBI investigated more than 1,000 suspects. They called the case Norjack. Names surface and fade, a Green Beret with a grudge against the airline industry, a skydiving instructor who vanished from his job days later, a dying man's supposed deathbed confession passed along by a relative decades after the jump. Each lead collapses under scrutiny. Fingerprints don't match, alibis hold, bodies turn up elsewhere. For 8 years, the case sits cold. Then, on February 10, 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram is digging in the sand along the Columbia River with his family. He finds 3 decaying bundles of cash, still bound with rubber bands, buried a few inches below the surface. The FBI confirms the serial numbers: $5,800 of Cooper's ransom, found 20 miles from where he jumped, on a stretch of riverbank called Tena Bar. It should be the breakthrough. Instead, it deepens the mystery. If the money drifted downriver from where Cooper landed, it suggests he came down somewhere in the water, or close to it, and the current carried the bills over the following years. But geologists who study the site can't agree on how the money got there. Some argue the deposit pattern doesn't match river drift at all, that it looks more like someone buried it deliberately. If that's true, someone survived the jump, buried a portion of the cash, and never touched the rest. The remaining $194,200 has never surfaced. In 2016, after 45 years, the FBI formally suspends active investigation into the case. They cite dwindling leads and the improbability that Cooper, if he survived, is still alive, but they never close it outright. Evidence remains catalogued. Tips still arrive decades later from people convinced their late father or uncle or neighbor was the man in C-18C. What's strange is how ordinary Cooper's disappearance made him. He didn't hurt anyone, he didn't fire a weapon, he simply took an amount of money precisely calculated to be enormous but manageable, jumped out of a moving airliner into a Pacific Northwest storm, and became a myth. Every hijacking after has forced a permanent change in the industry. Boeing redesigned the 727's aft stairs so they couldn't be lowered in flight. Airports installed metal detectors as standard. Airlines began requiring photo identification. An entire era of open, unchecked air travel ended because one man in a business suit proved exactly how vulnerable it was. Cooper became folklore almost immediately. Towns near his jump site hold an annual Cooper Day celebrating the myth. True crime forums have logged tens of thousands of posts theorizing his identity. Books, documentaries, and amateur investigators have spent half a century chasing threads that all end the same way: nowhere. The FBI once believed Cooper likely died on impact, his body and parachute lost to the dense timber of the Cascade foothills, never to surface. But the money at Tena Bar complicates that ending. Somebody's hands touched those bills after the jump. Whether that was Cooper himself, burying a portion of his haul before disappearing for good, or simple chance, current and sediment doing what water does, nobody has ever proven. Somewhere in that stretch of forest between the Lewis River and the Columbia, or possibly nowhere at all, is the answer. A man walked onto a plane, gave his order for a bourbon and soda, made history's only unsolved skyjacking, and vanished so completely that even the money he stole couldn't tell investigators where he went. Who was he?